Oh, sunshine. You feel that little itch between your shoulder blades? That prickle that says somebody's watching? Good, because there's a rumor slithering through the room right now, and every single syllable of it is about you, not shouted from rooftops. No, whispered. Traded in side glances, slipped under doors like little ransom notes nobody signed. People are rearranging themselves around you, and they think you haven't clocked it. But you have, haven't you? Of course you have. You clock everything. The temperature dropped, the small talk got smaller, and they have finally caught a whiff of who you actually are. Here's the hilarious part. They used to think they had you figured out, pinned like a butterfly under glass. Oh, they're harmless. Oh, they're predictable. Easy to map, easy to manage, easy to dismiss. Then what happened? You walked through a fire they wouldn't even stand near. You untangled a knot they couldn't even see. You kept your composure while they were absolutely losing the plot. And that, right there, that's when the penny didn't just drop. It detonated. There's a rumor slithering through the room right now about your power, and it is making people deeply, deliciously uncomfortable. You're not loud. You're not doing the most. You don't burst through doors swinging a spotlight around demanding everyone look at you. And that, my dear, is precisely what makes this so, how do I put it, unnerving for them. Because here's a fun little riddle. The most lethal person in any room is never the one throwing furniture. It's the one everybody wrote off until the curtain had already fallen. And right now, that understudy is you. People are starting to clock that you are not somebody to test. Not in a sloppy way, not in a loud way. In a surgical way. In a way that pulls the rug clean out before they even knew they were standing on one. Let that marinate. See, a thunderstorm announces itself. Dark skies, rumbling, everyone grabs an umbrella. But fog just arrives. Nobody notices until they can't see 2 feet ahead, and by then, they're already lost. That's how your mind operates. It doesn't send a save the date. It doesn't need to. It simply moves. And by the time anyone registers what shifted, the landscape already belongs to you. That's when the real energy pivots. That's when the rumor stops being gossip and starts being gospel. And here's something most people won't say with the lights on. Behavioral psychology. Not my usual bedtime reading, but credit where it's due. Tells us people fear what they cannot predict far more than what they cannot overpower. Sit with that. Loud confidence, manageable. Obvious brain power, measurable. They can prep, they can strategize, they can cope. But quiet, shape-shifting intelligence that wrecks their entire sense of safety in ways they literally cannot put into words. When someone cannot map your next move, they stop breathing easy around you. They start replaying conversations, rewinding moments, side-eyeing their own assumptions, wondering what they missed. And that exact spiral is unfolding in the spaces around you right now. You've probably already clocked the shift. Conversations stall the second you walk in. Words get chosen like they're being weighed on a jeweler's scale. The jokes land different now because the energy has teeth. And somebody who used to talk right over you, now they listen. Somebody who dismissed you, suddenly pretending they always saw it. That's not confidence, beautiful. That's hindsight doing a frantic sprint to catch up with reality. You're getting comfortable, and that's a mistake. Your past is a weapon, if you know how to swing it. My book, The Evolution of the Anomaly, is your training manual. Grab it from the description or pinned comment of this video. Let's get back to why you're really here. And here's the twist that really tickles me. You didn't suddenly level up overnight. You were always this. You know it in your bones. The difference? The universe threw you into pressure cookers, where your mind had no choice but to announce itself. Pressure doesn't build diamonds, darling. Pressure reveals who was already won. Chaos separates the thinkers from the screamers. While everyone else was having a full meltdown, you observed. While they rushed, you waited. While they tried to win through volume, you adapted. And now people are connecting threads they should have connected ages ago. Let me be blunt with you, because I do love a good blunt instrument. The rumor about you? It isn't admiration, even though it wears a pretty mask. It's a warning. Not because you're reckless or destructive. No, that would be too simple, too manageable. Because you're dangerous the way a locked room is dangerous. Nobody knows what's inside until it's too late to leave. You don't blow up. You don't perform on cue. You don't broadcast your plans and give people a head start on their little defense strategies. You watch long enough to understand the entire machine before you turn a single gear. And that, oh that, is what makes people squirm. It strips away their leverage. It dismantles their ability to spin the story. There's a reason surgeons don't rush their cuts, you know. Speed looks impressive on a highlight reel. But precision? Precision is what actually saves or ends the game. You've become that kind of presence. Someone whose silence has actual gravity. Someone whose calm feels loaded, like a sentence with a hidden clause. Someone who doesn't need to issue threats because people already feel the tectonic shift the moment you enter a situation. They feel it in their chest. People are starting to say things like, "Tread carefully with that one," or "They're sharper than they let on," or that nervous half-laugh that always gives the game away. Yeah, don't try that with them. Those aren't compliments, sweetheart. Those are little white flags. That's people quietly conceding they can't run the same playbook on you that works on everyone else. That's surrender wearing a trench coat and sunglasses, pretending to be casual conversation. And here's another uncomfortable little truth I'll just leave on the table. Highly intelligent people are almost always recognized on a delay, never in real time. Not because they're hiding, not because they're insecure about it, but because they don't perform intelligence for applause. They don't wave credentials like foam fingers. They don't correct every person in the room just to prove they've got the biggest brain in the building. They let results do the talking. And that's the gap, isn't it? By the time the crowd figures out what actually happened, the outcome is already sealed. Can't undo it. Can't unring that bell. The show was over before they even found their seats. That's why the rumor comes after the impact, never before. You walked through a fire they wouldn't stand near. You untangled a knot they couldn't see. You stayed composed while everyone else was panicking. You didn't take the bait. You didn't stumble into the obvious trap. And now they're rewinding those moments in their heads like security footage on loop, slowly, agonizingly, realizing you were several moves ahead the entire time. You were studying the machine while they were studying your expression. When people think they've got you mapped, they relax, they exhale, they think they can plan. But when they realize they don't actually understand you, that's when the whole dynamic flips like a table. Some will respect you more now. Some will fear you on a level they can't even name. Some will test you. just to confirm what they suspect, and some will quietly exit stage left without ever explaining why. And here's the thing, love. None of that is your circus. That's just the toll for being mentally untouchable. Yeah, I said it. Untouchable. The latest rumor about you isn't that you're lucky. It isn't that you're gifted or blessed or born holding aces. It's that you're dangerous in the only way that genuinely matters. You think clearly under pressure while other people are coming apart at the seams. You catch patterns earlier than others even begin looking. You don't hand emotional access to people who haven't paid the entry fee. And you don't need a single soul's permission to move with real bone-deep confidence. You didn't become someone to fear. You became someone impossible to con. And that realization is spreading, quietly, uncomfortably. Exactly the way real intelligence always does, now. I need you to pause with me here, just for a beat. If you're still with me right now, it's not an accident. People running on surface-level autopilot usually bounce pretty quick, but this message keeps its hooks in the ones who sense something deeper ticking underneath. The same quiet intelligence people are whispering about. That's probably the exact reason you're still listening. You don't chase noise. You follow patterns. You stay with what feels precise and real. So let's get specific about what makes you dangerous in this particular flavor. You don't move in straight lines the way most people do. That's the first miscalculation they make, and it costs them every single time. They expect linear because that's how their wiring works. Problem, tantrum, reaction, cause, effect, noise. Simple, predictable, easy to parry. But you don't operate on that frequency, and that is exactly why the rumor about you has grown fangs. You don't chase answers. You autopsy systems. You don't leap. You blueprint. And that gap between you and them, it's eating at them quietly, persistently, like rust. Here's what they still haven't figured out, and it's gnawing at them something fierce. You don't react to what happened. You react to why it happened, how it connects to everything else, and what door it opens next. While they're bickering about surface-level drama, throwing tantrums, you're already underneath the stage counting load-bearing walls. That's not overthinking. That's architecture-level thinking. And people who survive on hacks and quick dopamine hits absolutely cannot stand someone who sees the whole apparatus. You pause before you act. And they mistake that pause for freezing up. That's their first blunder. You're not stuck, Angel. You're running scenarios in your head at full speed. You're watching how one move branches into 5 different futures. You're selecting which version of tomorrow benefits you the most. And by the time they feel bold enough to make noise, you've already locked in the decision, internally, silently. When you finally move, it feels sudden to them, to you, inevitable. You saw it coming 100 iterations ago. This is where the real intimidation kicks in. People are comfortable with fast reactors, quick takes, loud opinions, predictable emotional outbursts. Those people are easy to map and easy to steer, but you don't flinch. You don't rush to justify yourself. You don't serve up emotional reactions on demand, like it's some kind of performance. And that silence of yours, it isn't empty. It's packed tight, and deep down, they feel every ounce of it. Think about it like this. Most people are playing bumper cars, just crashing into whatever's in front of them. But you're conducting an orchestra, not the showy kind, slow, layered, deliberate. You don't care about winning petty skirmishes or scoring quick validation hits. You care about finales. You let them feel clever early on because you know the composition gets complex later. You know how this piece ends. That's why people who try to outmaneuver you end up lost. They think they're winning. They're feeling themselves, getting confident. Then suddenly they realize there's no safe note left to play. Every direction has dissonance. Every option folds. And they never, ever saw it happening. Here's a question that might be forming in that brilliant head of yours right now. Why does this make people act strange around you? Why do they suddenly shift their tone, hesitate, over-explain themselves like they're walking on glass? Here's the answer, and it's a good one. When people realize you don't think in their straight little lines, they realize they can't control the story with you. You're not responding to what they say. You're responding to what their behavior betrays. You clock inconsistencies they thought were buried 6 feet deep. You remember patterns they assumed you'd forgotten. You connect threads across weeks and months in ways that genuinely shook them. That makes manipulators spiral. Because manipulation only works on people who think moment to moment. People trapped in emotional reflexes. People who don't track patterns over time. But you track everything. That's your edge. And their absolute nightmare. There's a psychological truth worth sitting with here. Humans feel most threatened not by intelligence itself, but by intelligence they can't model, can't forecast, can't game. If they can't predict your response, they can't strategize around you. If they can't strategize around you, they lose every bit of leverage. That's when respect curdles into caution, and caution curdles into rumor. They start probing you with little comments, subtle digs, practiced confidence. They're fishing for a flinch. They want proof you're just like them, reactive, impulsive, easy to steer. But you don't hand them that satisfaction. You respond later, or not at all, or in a way that makes them rethink the entire conversation from the top. That's when it finally clicks for them. This person isn't playing the same game. This person isn't even on the same board. And here's the part that hits them right where it hurts. You don't need to dominate conversations to dominate outcomes. You let others talk. You let them unspool their logic, their anxieties, their habits, their soft spots. Every word they drop is raw material to you. Intelligence in every sense. While they think they're winning the social moment, impressing the room, you're learning, you're cataloging. And by the time they realize what you've absorbed, what you've mapped, it's far too late to take any of it back. You've already seen the full blueprint. You've probably spotted this rhythm in your own life already. People underestimate you early. They get comfortable. They overshare. They assume you're passive or zoned out. Then something shifts. You make one move, drop one sentence, draw one line. And suddenly the entire dynamic cracks open permanently. They didn't see it coming because they were watching the wrong variable. They were measuring your speed. You were mapping the architecture underneath everything. That's why the rumor about you is no longer playful. It's turned guarded. People don't call you smart anymore. They say, be careful. That's a downgrade in comfort and an upgrade in awareness. They've realized you're not someone to rush, box in, or squeeze. You don't respond well to brute force because force isn't your operating system. You run on leverage and understanding. And let me float something to you. Why do you think you feel isolated sometimes, thinking the way you do? It's because most people won't slow down enough to think in layers. Linear minds want quick wins and clean labels. You don't serve that. Your mind moves in spirals, in strata, in long arcs. You see how today echoes into next month, how one decision reshapes an entire relationship, how one reaction rewrites the whole power map. That kind of depth creates distance. Not because you're above anyone, no, but because you're operating on a completely different clock. Make no mistake. The room feels the distance, too. They sense you're not fully accessible, not emotionally, not mentally, not strategically. They can't drag you into chaos on their schedule. They can't rush your calls. They can't bully you into blunders. That's why they either retreat or double down. Both reactions confirm you're doing something exactly right. And here's the brutal little truth they'll never say with the mic on. You make them feel see-through. Your way of thinking throws a spotlight on how reactive, scattered, and shallow their own minds actually are. And instead of rising to your frequency, most would rather slap a label on you. Too quiet, too intense, hard to read. Those labels aren't criticism, treasure. Those are shields. You're not confusing. You're layered. You're not slow. You're intentional. You're not cold. You're tactical. The more you lean into this way of thinking, the louder the rumor gets. Because once people realize you don't move in straight lines, they realize something else, too. You can't be played with the standard tricks. You don't swallow the emotional bait. You don't chase applause. You don't crack yourself open just to make other people cozy. You don't walk the path they've laid out for you. You circle the whole machine, remove their options one by one, and move only when the result is already locked in. That's not arrogance. That's intelligence married to discipline. And that's exactly why the latest rumor about you isn't admiration anymore. It's caution. It's respect tangled up with something that feels a lot like fear. Yeah, fear. So here's what I want you to understand. Crystal, no smudges. This wasn't just a show. This was recognition. The rumor about you exists for a reason, and now you know exactly why. You're not loud, you're not reckless, you're not easy to read, and you are absolutely, categorically, not someone to play with. And the more you move like this, the more aligned you become with who you actually are. The clearer it gets to everyone watching. So keep your eyes open, stay dangerous, and remember, nobody ever sees the fog coming. That's the whole point.